All right. What's up, everyone? It's Wednesday. It is summer, so it is officially hot. I mean, it's hot here, at least in the Midwest. And I know Joe's not that far away from me. A little bit farther now that I moved, but still pretty close. And I have the fortune of I work in an air conditioned building all day. Meanwhile, Joe does some actual manual labor and has to go work out the heat. So, Joe, how are you tonight, good sir?
I'm doing okay. If you can't tell, I'm battling a cold, but I'm here, ready to talk all kinds of news, what's going on in the world, and I am ready. I see our boss is checking in with some fire emojis. Well, Freddie, stick around because it's going to get pretty heated tonight.
Yeah, it is. So speaking of heat, we're gonna take a little bit of a trip here, if y'all would with us. We're gonna go over to the Middle East. More specifically, we're gonna go over to Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia basically made, in case anybody doesn't really follow the world of golf, I usually don't. The Saudis basically made their own golf league, which is equivalent to the PGA, and they have been recruiting a lot of big PGA golfers and big PGA players for the most part. Their first event is in London this week with some of those big name golfers by their side. Joe, where do you see the future of this tour playing out? Do you see them surviving for a hot minute? Do you think this is going to be one of those that it folds pretty quickly? Where do you see this moving to?
I mean, it's a really complicated question because of the money involved. We know that it's basically a never-ending supply of money that's going to try and sustain this tour. It's a league, not a tour. It's a league. It's 8 events. They're going to happen in England, as you talked about. They're going to have events in Oregon, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, and finish up in Florida. You can't even see the tour because they're not on any TV networks. Right, this weekend you're gonna be able to stream them on their homepage or on Facebook or YouTube. So it's not like you can even browse like, oh, I'm watching USA, and all of a sudden there's the LIV, which is what this is known as. It, the players involved has always been complicated because the PGA is going to have to make a decision whether these players who go and play can then come back and play on their tour. Now we've seen some players give up their PGA Tour cards, including Dustin Johnson, who's the only top 20 current player to go over. But some of the other names, I mean, if you even casually follow golf, you're going to know these names because a lot of these guys have won majors. Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Kevin Na, Sergio Garcia, Louis Oosthuizen, Carl Schweibel, Martin Kamer, Graham McDowell, Ian Poulter, Lee Westwood. I mean, you're talking about not only British players, but American players, American winners. I mean, let's not forget Dustin Johnson made $40 million to lead the PGA Tour last year. This isn't a guy who's hard up for money, but his excuse is, hey, I never have to work again because they're going to pay me $150 million just to show up. That's kind of the issue that I have. Are you just there for this one-time fee? Yeah, Bryson DeChambeau and I think Patrick Reed, right? That's
Yep.
right. Thank you, John Suggs. So again, like these guys are saying, I mean, Phil Mickelson is the big one because this is what started all. When Phil made the comment, like, oh, they're a bunch of bad dudes. You know, they killed Jamal Khashoggi and they murder people, and we know their record with gay people and women and all this. And then he kind of shut up for a while, and then he was the last person to enter the event this weekend. Like, it's real shady. And sustainability, I mean, they're going to get clicks online, not only from U.S. viewers, but from international viewers, you know, especially in Europe where a lot of these names are big in Europe. I mean, how long does it run? It's eight events. It's 8 weeks at least. So, like, what are they going to do afterwards? I don't know. They're going to look at the numbers the same as, you know, Jay Ness does. Yeah, Johnson, Garcia, Schwartzel, and Kevin Na have resigned from the tour, and we still don't know about these other players, especially the Europeans who play on the European Tour and the PGA Tour. But like the future, I mean, not to sound mean, but anything involving Saudi Arabia, the future doesn't seem to last that long.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's one of those, I mean, I get why they do it. I've heard a few of the different arguments. One of them is that, the golfer should be doing it because you like to play the game of golf and you're doing it because you're in the PGA. And the PGA doesn't pay them a lot of money. And because think about it, golf is a major sport, but it doesn't get worldwide attention. It's not soccer, it's not American football, it's not basketball, and it's not baseball. and it's not the Olympics. Like, you're not getting a whole lot of attention from golf. And we've seen recently with the Saudis, even as far back as I think 2017, 2018-ish, they started to kind of make deals with WWE because they want to bring in entertainment. They like these casual
Formula One.
Formula One racing, exactly. So they like bringing a lot of this more Western culture into it. But a lot of people obviously have the big issues with, so some of the payout differences, John, is they're doing it almost more like actual, almost like NFL contracts, basically. So like Phil Mickelson, for example, I think Phil Mickelson said what career earnings he's earned 120 million like over his career, like ever, and he got it in one contract with this Saudi Golf League. He immediately got like $120 million just upfront guaranteed, no questions.
They're paying is, I mean, Dustin Johnson, like I said, we talked about 40 million last year. They offered Tiger Woods a reported high 9-figure salary. My guess is they offered him 250 to 500 million. They wanted Jack Nicklaus, one of the founders of the PGA tournament, to come over and be the face of this league. Like, they're not wanting for money. Like, they've got all the money in the world to pay these guys. And the thing of it is number one, how much is your soul worth? And number two, is this a one-time payment? Because if they all of a sudden, you better check the contracts, because if this says, hey, we're going to do 8 events every year, you have to be at them. If not, you're not going to get paid. We don't know what all of this is. I mean, obviously the guys aren't dumb. They have their agents, they have their lawyers looking at stuff. But I mean, you put the pressure on somebody. I mean, you go over to Saudi Arabia, you go over to Thailand. I mean, it just, and again, this turns into a whole political and geopolitical thing too about these guys. And I mean, they were asked questions and they said, well, what about Saudi Arabia? And we listed it, LGBTQ rights, women, gay people, anything, stuff like this. Like, how do you feel? And some people have brought up the fact that the United States does business dealings with Saudi Arabia, even though we are supposed to be particular in what we do, and we've had some issues with them and stuff like that. So again, I mean, what's kind of your take on that, Tony? As somebody who's in the military, and I mean, not that they're the same, but like, you kind of get the inside of this, right?
It's one of those, I get why people are upset with Saudi Arabia as a whole, and I get why, like you said, people are selling their soul because it's a big payout. And I mean, think about it from a theological perspective, at least, especially more based in Christianity. Money is the root of all evil. Money makes the world go round. And think about it. There's been wars started over money, people killed over money, relationship, everything has happened because of money. And the thing that people need to kind of understand is the Middle East is very, theologically run. It is very heavily based in religion, mainly in Islam. You do have some Judaism, obviously. That's a big issue with Israel and Palestine, who it goes back to. I don't want to try to get too deep into that.
Yeah.
But this is a country, and this is a thing that people are going to have to understand with the United States is, while people may not like the United States, you have the freedom to do so, and you have the freedom to not like it. Yes, these guys are doing this, and that's on them. If you want to call them a terrible person, you can do that. That's fine. The Saudis are not going to change the way they believe unless the people that are in the country all decide that they want to do that, and they want to change how their government works, because it's primarily theologically run. If you look at a country like Afghanistan, has never truly had a for sure stable government like ever, because they don't want one. Like, no, that's just not how we roll business.
And John brought up, John brought up a good point. I've heard a bunch of brands will drop players if they go over to Saudi League. It's already happened. Phil Mickelson lost with his comments months ago, back in March, he lost sponsorships and stuff. I mean, that's why he's been so quiet. That's why he was the last coward to sign up for the tour. And I do say he's a coward because at least these other guys showed up to the press conference. At least they said, I mean, like, hey, we're here, whatever. Phil just kind of slinked in the back door. Yeah. One more thing about this, because I know we have a lot of stuff to get to. And this is the really frustrating part. And this is it. I'm going to be trying to be really delicate here, because everything you said was absolutely right. Israel Gutierrez from ESPN brought up a really good point. even if he agrees about player empowerment, if he agrees, hey, these guys are just trying to get a check. That's what everybody, hey, I'm trying to get a check. You're trying to get a check. Like Tony's on 8 ASAP shows because he's trying to make a name for himself and he's doing all this stuff to make a name for himself. And that's fine. But how can he support a league that he wouldn't even be allowed to play in? Because he's gay. Yeah. If one of these guys has a sibling or is gay themselves and they want to wear a little pride pin to support their, because it's Pride Month in the United States, they can't do that. They can be thrown in jail. Same as Brittany Griner in Russia. Different reasoning, but like it's no joke. So like again, you really have to weigh the pros and cons of not only going but being a fan. Like it'll be interesting. Like a part of me's like, I don't really watch golf, but I want to see how it is. They're playing at real courses. They're not, stupid country club courses. They're, like they're real big courses. But I can't support it. And I think the arguments that people have, I don't think that anybody's necessarily wrong, but I do feel that there is a right side, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's one of those that's delicate because, again, if anybody that also watches wrestling, you've seen how WWE does things. Like there have been a lot of wrestlers that have just been banned from competing in any of the Saudi Arabia events. One of the rest, Aleister Black, who I can't remember his AEW actual name.
I don't. Yeah.
He was not allowed to compete because he has very religious based tattoos, and they said no, you can't. If you want to perform, you have to be covered up, and he said no. Sami Zayn, he has I think Armenian heritage, and he also has something else, and the Saudis were like, no, can't do it. Yep. The women obviously have to be covered up, like they can't wear their traditional, ring attire that they would wear. So it's one of those that, like you said, the players, I think the players just want to do it mainly for the check because, again, to me, I get why the PGA doesn't make a whole lot of money to start with. It's kind of it's a mutual beneficial relationship because on one hand, you're getting the players who have the sponsorships, who are bringing attention to your league. And on the other hand, as the player, you get to say that you're a part of the PGA, you're a part of something big and historic. And, it coincides with each other. So I get why they're doing it for the money. But again, like I said, the money is the key thing in all this. And it's the root. And again, a lot of people will sell out for a good chunk of money because, again, like I think he said, Phil Mickel's like, I don't ever have to work again. I get $150 million up front. Oh,
Dustin Johnson, yeah.
Yeah. Drop all my sponsors. I don't care. I get $150 million to live off of for the rest of my life. Like you can already bet any house that he's got is probably already paid off. For him, $100 grand is like a drop in the fish tank. Like it's like, he ain't gonna be struggling by no means. So
yeah, it's just really frustrating because, again, like it seems, and people have brought it up, like people who are fans of golf and just general sports fans, like for all this money behind it, it is so hastily done and so poorly contrived. Like it's a team structure, but then an individual structure, and it's not on anywhere. And it's almost like, okay, it's kind of the problem. Like you said, money is the root of all evil. It's like you can't throw money at a sinking ship and expect it to float. Like that's not how it works. And it seems like they shot themselves a hole in their boat, and they're like, we're just going to throw money at it and hope it doesn't sink. And it's like, good luck.
But people will do it because they're like, no, the more money we throw, the more it'll stay afloat. It'll be fine. So it does suck though. But we'll move on. We'll come back here to the great US of A. And speaking of money, there's a lot of money spent here recently, and it's actually funny. I'll bring it up here in a second. So the Broncos were bought out. Were bought by the heir to the Walmart fortune.
One of them.
Yeah, one of the heirs of Walton Penner.
No,
the family itself.
It's the family. It's Robert Walton.
Yeah, Robert.
His
Walton.
daughter, who her married name is Penner. So it's their kind of group. It's the Walton Penner group, but it's the Walton family. It's one of the Walton family from Walmart.
Yeah. So one of the richest families in America. Bought the Broncos for a record $4.65 billion, twice the previous record that David Tepper paid for the Carolina Panthers for $2.3 billion. And, obviously the big question is why is it such a high price? Before I jump into that, though, I read an interesting article that it said John Elway let $900 million slip through his fingers. And I was like, what in the world are they talking about? So I go back and look. So at one point when he was negotiating his contract with the Denver Broncos, the owner at the time actually offered him a 10% ownership of the Denver Broncos. In exchange, he would still get a good chunk of money for his contract, and he would get 10% ownership of the Broncos, or he could just take the money, and they would offer him a little bit more incentives. And he is like, no, I'm not going to do that. And now if he would have kept those shares, he would have gotten $900 million out of this deal had he have done that. Or, all honesty, he probably could have just talked to the owner of the Broncos and been like, hey, I already got 10%. Let me just buy you out of your contract and just keep on going with Broncos. So the big question is why such a high price? And exactly, the Denver Walmart Broncos. They're cheap. They're effective. You can always get more if one breaks.
Oh my.
If you think about it, look at all the people that are buying NFL teams, because what's probably one of the safest and best things to invest in? A professional live sports team. Yeah. If you invest in technology, that technology is probably going to change in about 5 to 10 years. Look at how far along smartphones have came. Cell phones in general. You went from this big old brick that you could literally carry in a bag or in your car, a literal bag phone, to I have an entire world computer in the palm of my hand, and it can do pretty much anything that I need or want it to do. Cars obviously constantly changing. Gas, stock prices, everything's always changing. What's always consistent? A professional sports team, because you're always going to have a city to go to. You're always going to have fans that are going to support it. As long as America stays America, they're going to be here. 50 years from now, are the Denver Broncos still going to be the Denver Broncos? Unless something happens between the city of Denver and them, more than likely. So, and rich people buy everything to continue to get rich. The rich continue to get richer. I think for Denver, because you look at Denver's, historical success, it's a higher buy than it is Carolina. Carolina only came about since 1995. They were one of the last 3 expansion teams, besides Jacksonville and Houston. So, they're relatively new. They've been to a couple Super Bowls. They've lost both. They've had some success in the division. Broncos have been around forever. You've had a lot of big name players come in and come through. They went to a Super Bowl. They went to 2 Super Bowls, in the last 10 years, and they ended up winning one. So. And, you look at what they recently got too, as far as Russell Wilson. That's a big market within itself, because you get him and you get his wife. You get all the other players that are attached to the Denver Broncos. So to me, that's why they're such a big price, because it's a great investment opportunity, and he could easily make his money back. $4.65 billion. Heck, even on let's say a bad year, and he only gets like $300 million a year, it's not going to take him long to make that money back. And that could just be in like ticket sales, that could be in revenue, merchandise sold, that could be in all that. And again, that's not even including if they go somewhere in the postseason. If Russell Wilson takes them even farther, that's more money generated, that's higher ticket prices, more revenue going out. So that's my take on it. Do you feel it's a little bit different as far as the high price, or how do you feel about it?
I agree with you, but I think it's more than that. Number one, Walton knows what the TV deals coming down the pipe are. He knows that expansion prices are going to blow up. In all honesty, as soon as the TV deals are announced, if Jerry Jones wanted to sell the Dallas Cowboys for $15 billion, he probably could. I'm not being sarcastic. He literally could sell the Cowboys and everything included for $15 billion. And I'm not even sure he would take it, because that's Jerry. But he could. He could put $15 billion. He'd have 5 bidders, and he'd tell them all no, just because it's Jerry. So I think that's a big part of it. They see where this is going. The thirst for live sports, for live venues. It's supposed to say bought, not brought. But
I can't spell. I'm sorry.
But it's real easy to understand why to do this, because again, we're going to see, they always talk about, well, this is the value of the team. Value doesn't matter. It only matters to the people who own it. People buying it, that's a totally different thing. If you're hungry, you'll pay $3.75 for a bottle of pop. If it's free, you'll drink 10 of them. It's fine. Like value doesn't matter to anybody other than the owners of it. It's like Jerry Jones could say, well, your franchise is only worth $5.8 billion. He's like, I'm not selling it for less than 10. Just I don't care. Like, that's just the way it is. And the Broncos, like you said, brand recognition, people know the Bronco. When you see the Broncos, you think John Elway, you think Terrell Davis, you think Peyton Manning now. As much as you think of him with the Colts, you also think of him with the Broncos. And you do think of that success. I mean, they have 3 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, it's no small feat. Like, there's not many teams with more than 3. I mean, there's a few with 4, 5, 6. We know Tom Brady 7, but like 3 is impressive. They're an AFL franchise, so they've got a long history. The one thing I hope comes out of this guy is worth, I think it's either 48 or 59 billion dollars. When they inevitably go to the public and ask for a stadium, there should be no public money funding this. This guy is an uber billionaire. The public should not have to pay for new stadiums for teams, and especially under the threat of moving. First off, the league would never let Denver move. They're won't. Like, that's just it. But when Walton goes and says, well, I need to, I need, $800 million to build a brand new state-of-the-art stadium. No, you don't. Mm-hmm. No, you don't. It's plain and simple. So again, part of that the 4.65 billion is investment in the future too. Mm-hmm. It's what's coming down the line, because again, if they make $300 million a year in 10 years, that's $3 billion. Robert Walton is probably living for 10 more years. So he's going to make back, at least $3 billion. And that doesn't even include, like you said, the concessions, the everything, stuff like that. So he bought this. He bought it as a legacy for his daughter and his son-in-law, and it'll be passed on from the Bolin family. Remember, Pat Bolin was the owner. He got Alzheimer's, dementia. So basically it was the Bolin Family Trust. They couldn't get along, as we've seen. 59 billion. Thank you. The Colorado Avalanche, regional media networks.
Yeah, so Walton's daughter is married to Stan Kroenke, that's where Stan Kroenke got his money to buy the Rams. Bought up also a bunch of commercial property in St. Louis, and then took his talents out to LA as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be done by the time the season starts. They've said it'll be about 30 to 60 days to go through everything. But, I mean, it was reported earlier this week. Everybody's like, well, no, that's not true. They're doing the second round of bids. And then 24 hours later, in the middle of the night, all of a sudden they come to an agreement. Like, we knew. Nobody else was going above 4.5. They basically juiced them out of another $150 million. So, again, I don't hate it, but I'm going to be interested to see how many owners, especially older owners, Russell Wilson Rams 2025. Mike, we're having a serious show here, sir.
Seattle Revenge Tour, we'll put it that way.
I'm interested to see, especially older owners or family trusts who own these teams, if they're looking to sell now, because right now is a seller's market. Mm-hmm. It is. If you want to make a quick couple $1 billion, sell your team right now. It's going to be worth more down the line. That's fine. But if you are just like, I don't want to deal with it anymore, now's the time to sell. And I think in the next 5 years, we could see another 3 or 4 franchises for sale.
Maybe, because that's the thing. Because if you look at a lot of these teams, because if you're a successful team, you're not going to sell it because you're going to continuously make money. Like, even like you said, even if somebody came up to Jerry and was like, here's $25 billion, check right now, go cash it, won't even try to stop you, and make me the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones is just going to be like, no, that's not how we do things down here in Tejas. I'm not about to give up my Dallas Cowboys. So I don't see successful teams being given up. And really, I don't even see some of these older teams being given up. I could see kind of like what happened with the Broncos, this family trust, maybe these kids that all have like an equal share in the team. Like, okay, well, who's going to run it? It's kind of one of those, like, I hate to kind of mention it, but if you've ever seen like the show Bar Rescue, like, I'm the owner, my son's the general manager, my daughter's this, et cetera, and nobody really knows how to run the bar. Or if something happens to the parent, okay, it's a brother and sister. Now they both, own it, and now they're trying to run it, and they run it into the ground, basically. So I kind of see what you mean. Like, maybe people do it to make a quick buck. But when you buy these teams, like even if you're just hot garbage, you're still making money.
Mhm.
You're still going to make money. So it's never going to be one of those to me that it's going to be a losing investment. So I don't know. It's one of those, and especially as there's all these people that want to buy these sports teams continue to get more and more expensive. So again, unless it's like a collective of maybe like 20, 30 celebrities that all try to like pitch in to buy a team, and I don't even know how well that's going to work, because then I feel like that's just going to be a complete and total utter disaster, because you've got, we'll say at least 5+ personalities trying to figure out how to make something work with this massive investment.
Yeah, and I want to address Mike's question real quick. Once the Bears move to Arlington, do you see them selling? Why buy a new arena just to sell? And then John said Chicago Bears owner, I believe, is Virginia McCaskey,
Yeah.
is 99 years old. That's another one. I understand she wants to keep it in the family, but if they're looking to modernize the franchise, and that's what this is about, it's about modernizing the franchises. And by that, I mean going into the 21st century with the new TV deals, with the new state-of-the-art stadiums, with all of this stuff. It's going to have to happen. Another one to keep in mind is in Detroit with the Ford family. That's another one I could see selling in the next 3 to 4 years, because I think, is it Sheila Ford, if I'm not mistaken? She's the controlling owner. So again, I understand why you hold on to them because of the lineage. Like the Rooneys aren't selling in Pittsburgh. They've brought in, Tepper was a minority owner there. But they're controlling interest. That's always going to be the way that it is. But I'm talking about these franchises, maybe that have struggled like the Bears, maybe that have struggled like the Lions, and they're just like, you know what? I don't have the time and energy to do it. We need football people in here, and we need to step out of the way. And a $3 billion, $4 billion, $5 billion nest egg is not a bad way to go out.
Yeah. Here we go. So, George, if you're watching this, we have a gentleman in Chicago that he just wants to talk with you. He just wants to talk. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to have a friendly discussion face to face.
Over brie and tea. Over some brie and tea.
Exactly. So we'll keep it in the NFL. And speaking of disaster franchises, one in particular. So DeShaun Watson, it came out at least 66 different women over a 17-month period apparently were reached out to by DeShaun asking for massages. How much that entails, we don't know, because he is a professional athlete. He gets a lot of those anyway. A lot of them typically do. Where exactly. Um, you know, there's a lot of speculation now that, and it actually just got brought up recently by ESPN, that now the Texans are going to be potentially called as defendants as well. So we have DeShaun, we have the Houston Texans. I think, is Cleveland a part of that yet, or no?
Not yet.
Not yet. So,
Not
yet. And I know the question was asked initially: do the Texans stop getting the benefit of the doubt? I think the obvious question, the obvious answer to that is now yes, because they had to know, like DeShaun knows everything. Like he knows the most of what happened. The Texans have to know like the second most, because they were probably close to that, if not at least asking some questions of like, hey, how really deep is this? You don't have to tell us like a number, but give us a guesstimate as to how bad is this going to potentially get.
Well, I've got some news here, and this is please, this is heavy stuff. Please buckle in, okay? The reporting from the New York Times, and I don't have the woman's name in front of me. That bothers me because I want to give her credit. She did a thorough investigation, which is something that the NFL had no interest in doing when it came to DeShaun Watson. She interviewed at least 66 women. And here's the thing. Right now, 24 women have filed lawsuit against DeShaun Watson. I don't know if you guys are good at math or not, but that's 42 women who were contacted, at least, who did not file suit. So if you're always saying, well, it's about the money, it's a bunch of money grubbing, these women went on the record and said, I have no interest in suing him, but this is what happened. And they are graphic details. And I implore everybody to go read it. It is really bad stuff. And the reason the Texans are getting brought into this is because their director of security, Brett Nachara, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, was one of the people brought into this, is going to be brought by Tony Busby, who's representing these 24 women, because they provided the hotel rooms at times. They were facilitating this. And you know that some of these women, like, listen, I don't want to hear the thing that he just wanted different. Any professional athlete, they like what they like. You have a masseuse, you have a cook, you have a chef, you have a personal trainer. You stick with them until you don't. If you average it out, 66 women over 17 months is one woman per week. What professional athlete at the top of their game, 24 years old, 25 years old, is getting massages from at least 66 different women, one per week. That is not how it works. And again, the details, I won't bring them up here. They are not safe for work, but I implore you to go read them, what these women said. This is going to get bad. And I'm not going to lie. I didn't know about this when I came up with the topic, which is why Tony mentioned about when will the Texans stop getting the benefit of the doubt. Only a couple hours later, guess what? The Texans have stopped getting the benefit of the doubt. And not only is this going to come back on Houston, this is going to come back on Cleveland, because Cleveland said they did their due diligence. They said they talked to DeShaun Watson. They said they talked. There's been two different lawsuits filed just in the time since he is signed. This is a catastrophe wrapped in a conundrum, wrapped in a shit show. Like, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad for the Texans. This is going to be bad for the NFL, for Goodell, for the Browns. I mean, this is you think it's over? This has just started.
Oh yeah, and like Mike asked, if the Texans knew the case wouldn't be overturned, can the trade get reversed? There's a lot of speculation that, again, since Cleveland said they did their due diligence, they went and talked to DeShaun, which we don't know if they got the full story or not. If they would have probably got the full story, they probably wouldn't have made this trade. The Browns probably I would be willing to bet the Browns went into it and said, hey, we know you have this situation going on. We know we had, 22 at the time? 22? 22 women accusing you. You've been acquitted by a grand jury that you did anything, illegal, but anything criminal, right?
Criminal.
So you didn't do anything criminally wrong, but you're still going to go to court. So Cleveland probably went into it and said, okay, hey, we know you got at least 22. We're going to pay you. We're going to trade for you. We're going to pay you, and we're going to go from there. Now, again, the big question is did they put any type of verbiage in that contract of, it's only 22. Maybe there's a couple other people that come out. Maybe they don't, and maybe Cleveland could recuperate some of their compensation from that. Now, as far as the Texans go, if you're getting brought in on the as being accused as well, if I'm Goodell, because there's also a lot of big speculations that this is going to end Goodell as the NFL commissioner. Oh no, so sad. Let me put my sad face on. So upset. Goodell's going to finally get fired. If he wanted to try to do anything to save what tiny bit of reputation that he has left from being walking garbage can to start with, you suspend DeShaun. But I would say, actually, I wouldn't suspend him. I put him on the commissioner's non-playing list. Like, don't let him play, but don't suspend him, because it's one of those. I hate this whole idea of you're guilty until proven innocent. So, again, there's a lot of speculations, like you said. There's a lot of very graphic details. I'm not saying that they faked it. I'm not saying that at all. I want to give DeShaun his fair doubt. But if I'm Goodell, I would still be a little bit more careful with it. Like, hey, I'm not going to allow you to play because, again, this is an issue. Whether or not you're guilty or innocent, this is still an issue that got brought to limelight. So I'm not going to reward you by allowing you to play. And if this does come out, as soon as this, gets, started, or at least the crap starts rolling downhill faster and faster, you ban DeShaun from the rest of the league. You reprimand Cleveland for trading for him and reprimand Houston. And if anything, all of those picks, those are all gone. Yeah. Neither team gets those. Those picks are done.
That was part of my solution was if they've listen, reporters have gotten a bad just a bad reputation of the last 6 years, and we know a good reason of that why. But reporters are vital. They are vital to American democracy, and they're vital to truth telling. Listen, the NFL didn't want to investigate this. The NFL didn't want to investigate this because they don't want to acknowledge the problems that they have with women fans, women coaches, wives, everything. They don't want to acknowledge that. They didn't want to acknowledge it after Ray Rice. They do, the Susan G. Komen, pink stuff. Great, but you don't really deal with domestic violence because we still know stories that are going on. So that's one thing. Another thing is Cleveland has to get reprimanded. If this comes down, like if you say that this could be the straw that breaks Goodell's back, I actually think this could be his defining legacy right here. More so than the money that's been brought into the NFL, how he handles this situation. And not only with DeShaun Watson, because somebody brought up Robert Kraft earlier. Robert Kraft will disagree. Listen, he has been light on owners for the most part. They get fines. Jim Irsay was suspended a little bit when he had pills and money and all this stuff. Yeah. But he's been fairly light on owners. If this comes out that the Texans organization was facilitating this, whether they knew what was going on or not, that they didn't raise an eyebrow and say, isn't it weird that every week DeShaun wants a different girl? Like every single week. Like we have trainers in-house. Why is he getting them? Like it's just really – and they were meeting at a hotel. Like can't meet at the facility, can't meet at the whatever. So again, I think way down the road, if Goodell comes down hard on DeShaun and gives him like the Trevor Bauer suspension or just the indefinite suspension of at least a year, and comes down hard on Houston and null and void the picks that were traded, and also makes Cleveland carry that cap space. Those $230 million. We know what they did this year. We talked about it. The $1 million salary, where if he's suspended for the year, he only loses like $1 million. F that. They need to be punished. Same as I brought up before, Washington and Dallas punished in the non-cap year. You are punished by this. We knew that this was a bad decision. You paid him $80 million more guaranteed than any person who has ever signed an NFL contract, who was just Aaron Rodgers this past offseason. Yeah. Like, it's, again, Cleveland, I just make this clear, and I'll finish. Cleveland did not investigate the way they were supposed to. The NFL did not investigate the way they were supposed to. DeShaun Watson has been a liar. Do you know how I know he's been a liar? Because I'm a man. When DeShaun Watson says, I've never been disrespectful to a woman in my life, you, sir, are a liar. Because even the nicest guys, even Tony, even Freddie, even Mike Hughes, even John Suggs have been disrespectful to a woman at one time in their life, whether it was an offhanded comment, whether it was worse than that, something. I'm not saying to the rise of sexual assault. I'm just saying, you've been disrespectful. So let's cut that out right now. Everybody has. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's like when people say, oh, I'm the least racist person. It's like, no, you're not. Because the least racist person I know wouldn't have to say racist. That. It's like you. So again, it's frustrating. And let's not forget, this all started because DeShaun wanted out of Houston. Mm-hmm. The news was DeShaun no longer wants to be in Houston. And then this happened. And it's just, again, to me, there's going to be more numbers. 66 is a high number as it is. They're saying it could be over 100. But the fact that a majority of the women are not filing lawsuit really leaves me. I understand in the court of law, it is innocent until proven guilty. In the court of public opinion and the court of the way we see the world, it does always work like that.
Yeah. And I hope you... Obviously, Matt Nagy should also be punished because it was a crime how he just ran things in Chicago. Mike also said it wasn't his fault. She took the last Pop-Tart out of the work vending machine. I ain't gonna lie, I'd probably throw hands over that too. I'm just not trying to make light of the situation, but I'd also probably throw hands over that, especially if it was a bad day. Even then, I don't. To your point, Joe, I don't know if this would be Roger Goodell's defining legacy because again, he's one of these. He's been this commissioner. He's reactive. He's not proactive. Like he doesn't address things before they happen. Like think about all the opportunities he's probably had to make some type of adjustment about this. Take for example Adrian Peterson a few years ago with his kid. He had an opportunity to make a more defiant stand. Like, hey, if you do this, if you get something related to this, this is going to be your punishment. Or if AP could be could be made an example of like, hey, I'm going to suspend him for this long. and then he's going to come back. However, he's going to be the only one that gets that opportunity, because if anybody else does it, consider this your warning. If you do it, you are out of my league forever, no matter what, no ifs, ands, or buts. He's had opportunities to do that, and the fact that, again, you can never really, be prepared for something like this to happen. But again, you could be more proactive as far as like setting standards. Like, hey, if you get something like this, if you're, and it sucks because of how the world is, and it's going to sound weird to bring up. Look at people like Amber Heard. Amber Heard said Johnny Depp was an abuser, and some people believed her all the way up until there was the actual court, and then come to find out she is the abuser, not Johnny. So it
both.
Or both. Yeah. More than likely, to me, I think, had this not been two celebrities, this is just a civil domestic dispute. Both people are in the wrong. Both of you go home, or basically in a divorce court, hey, you get this, everybody go home, stop fighting. But because it's celebrities and there's more, money involved, defamation, everything like that, that's part of why. But to me, this is going to be, I think this is Goodell's final thing. He screwed everything else up. He screwed up the email thing with Washington. I think if John Gruden's thing is able to push forward, if this doesn't hurt Goodell, that Washington thing is going to hurt Goodell, because people are going to keep digging into that. And just think of the like category like 69 hurricane that's going to hit him of crap when that Washington thing blows up because of all those emails.
Agreed. But I think, again, I'm not saying it will. This has a chance.
It does.
To replace Ray Rice as the first thing that goes on his tombstone. The way he handles this, not saying it'll fix what happened with Ray Rice in that situation, but I'm saying this could be the one. We always talk about career resurgences. You flip 180, stuff like this. This could be it. Yeah.
But I definitely agree. So we'll move on to a little bit of a lighter topic now.
Got all the heavy stuff out of the way.
I know we knocked it out early, so that way at least we can end on a high note. We can end on a good note.
Before we get there, I do want to say, I think we need to talk about these topics, and not like, I think that's really important, and that's what I was, when I was thinking of the topics, I'm like, I know there's a lot of like fun and goofy stuff that we do here, but I also thought it was really important that we address some of this stuff, because as sports fans, being a sports fan is complicated. And stuff like this makes it even more complicated. So I just want to say thank you to Tony for allowing us to talk about this and for having, the dialogue back and forth.
No, I agree. And I think it helps too when people can see an actual logical breakdown of it and a semi-debate instead of just like a screaming match argument. I think it also helps when you have people that, especially with some media, like obviously you're going to watch something that you tend to like lean more as far as what their topics are, what their beliefs are, as far as who you gravitate towards. If you're more conservative, you're probably going to go to Fox. If you're more liberal, probably NBC, CNN, whatever, depending on your level of whatever you agree with. I think once people kind of see the overall logical, like just straight down the facts middle, then they can make their determination of where they want to go to and how they see it and how they view it.
Yeah.
But we did get an opportunity last year, though. Exactly. In conclusion, Matt Nagy and Amber Heard are the devil. That is 1,000% true. You want to talk about selling your souls? They definitely did. So, second-year players. There was three obviously big ones that made massive contributions to their team immediately last year. We saw Micah Parsons. He was all over the ball for the Dallas Cowboys on defense. He was everywhere. It was one of those, nobody expected Dallas to take him, but both corners that they planned on taking, both in Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, got off the board. So Micah Parsons was basically your best defensive player that was left. Dallas ended up taking him. Obviously, we saw the reuniting of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, which goes back to their LSU days with Ed Ogeron. Go Tigers! And the supposed second coming of Megatron in Kyle Pitts and Atlanta at tight end. So Joe, to you, what player do you think takes the next big step next year out of these three? Because you have one guy on defense and two on offense.
Boy, that's really tough. And the reason I say is because all three had different levels of success. Parsons was the defensive rookie of the year. He had 13 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Jamar Chase goes out, 81 catches, over 1,400 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts was a Pro Bowler in his first year, 68 catches, 1,026 yards, only 1 touchdown. But we also know that team was not very good next year. Jalen Waddle's another one that takes the biggest leap. That makes sense. I almost included Waddle when I did it, but with Tyreek Hill there, I was kind of like, I'm trying to think of the focal points. Because right now, Micah Parsons is the Dallas defense. Right now, Kyle Pitts is the Atlanta offense. Jamar Chase, despite a really talented wide receiver room, is the number 1 guy. And I think you can make an argument that Waddle is the number 2 guy, but can be very successful. So that's agreed, Mike. Jalen Waddle, statistically, will probably take a huge leap, even though he set the rookie record for catches. Yeah. To me, I think it's Parsons. And I hate saying that because I always have a tough time banking on defensive players to get better. They kind of plateau. Can he go over 13 sacks? Maybe he can. Maybe he can get 15 or 16. But does he still do all the little things that he did? Yeah. So, we saw him chasing running backs down the field. Are they just going to turn him into a pure pass rusher to go opposite DeMarcus Lawrence? I think if they do, that actually lessens his impact on the game, even though he might statistically be better. So that's where I get it. Chase, 81 catches for 1,400 yards. I saw some of those games. I'm in the Pittsburgh/Cleveland/Cincinnati market. So I saw some of those early games where, he's getting tackled at the 2 yards in front of the line of scrimmage, breaking 3 guys and breaking a 70-yard rest. What he did last year was incredible. This was a guy in training camp. They weren't even sure was going to be able to catch the ball because he had the drops. He just couldn't do it. Pitts is really tricky because we see Mariota. He could have 80 catches this year. He might even hit 100 because Mariota, we know, likes to use the tight ends. We know that he doesn't necessarily get the ball down the field. We know Calvin Ridley's not there, even though they got a first-round wide receiver in, Drake London, I believe. Yeah. So in that terms, I think you could see statistically Pitt's a higher jump. But to me, it's Parsons. This is a guy who, again, if they utilize him in the right way, maybe around the same numbers, but definitely a huge impact.
I'm actually not going to go with the Dallas Cowboy. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengal. I'm going to go with Chase. And the reason why I say that is because Cincinnati got better offensively. And the reason why I say that is because, theoretically on paper, they have a significantly improved offensive line. Now, can all of them work and be cohesive, and can they click? That'll be a big question mark. But their run game should be a lot more open now because they'll be able to run. Joe Mixon will be there. And you added a bigger target in Austin Hooper to your offense at tight end in place of CJ Uzama. And you're still going to have Higgins and Tyler Boyd. So to me, Chase is still going to be the number 1 guy. I'm not going to say that he's going to do something crazy like 2,000 yards. maybe. But the fact that he did a complete 180 from what he was doing in preseason, because we saw him in preseason, it was like, oh man, he's going to be bust. He was dropping every ball that came his way. He was just dropping it. And, then he did a complete 180. And like you said, he 1,400 yards. He was, constantly breaking free. He had a couple 200-yard plus games with 3 touchdowns. So, he is solid. And I think it's easier for offensive players to move forward than it is defense. And part of why I picked Chase is because Parsons, like you said, Dallas really only has DeMarcus Lawrence as an edge rusher. There's a couple guys, maybe Sam Williams that they drafted out of, I think it's Ole Miss, if I remember right. You still have Dorrance Armstrong that they drafted a couple drafts ago. Maybe. They could maybe do it almost like a DeMarcus Ware type thing, like he's a linebacker, but they're mainly going to have him be a pass rusher because he's not bad in coverage. But I will say, for some of the stuff I watched him do, it's like you could have picked that off, man. Like I'm not saying you got to pick off every ball, but I'm kind of like, you had it, dude. Just like get the stick 'em on your gloves or something, man. And I mean, to me as a Cowboys fan, the defense is always the weakness, and I think Mike is only going to be able to do so much. And when you don't have those pass rushers up front that's able to that's able to get to the quarterback to start with, Mike is going to be able to do it. But again, he's only going to be able to do it for so long and, only so much. And then Pitts, like you said, he is in a huge quarterback downgrade. Like, yeah, he's going to be probably the safety blanket for Mariota, maybe even Ritter, if Ritter gets the start, which I could see it. I mean, why not?
Who knows?
You don't really have anything to lose if it's Ritter. So I think Pitts takes a little bit of a step back just purely because, yes, you have London. London's going to be a rookie, and your quarterback situation room is pretty meh. Like, really, the only one that's solid to me is Chase, because as long as Burrow stays upright and healthy, Chase and Cincinnati are going to be fine. So,
yeah. No, I mean, Chase makes sense. I mean, it does. I would push back a little bit and say by an improved offensive line we saw last year, Kansas City signed all those guys. They traded for Orlando Brown Jr. They signed Joe Thuney, and the offensive line took a while to get going. And their run game, which I expected to be better, was not. Now, maybe part of that was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I do like Joe Mixon as a running back. I like what he does in the passing game. I like when he gets some blocking, what he's able to do. So that's why I think Chase's numbers might come down. I think you could see him right around the 75, 80 catch thing again, but I don't think he's going to take a big leap up into the 95, 100 plus catches. I just think that offense is built to spread around, like you said, to Tyler Boyd, to Higgins, to Mixon, now to Hooper, stuff like this. Trevor Lawrence, Javonte Williams from the Broncos would be two I would consider. Absolutely. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, like, people forget, the Myers situation last year was just, again, I didn't want to make the number one overall pick an option because, like, that's just what it is. But he did look good at times last year. Now let's see what happens with the Doug Peterson offense. That, let's not forget, as much as I'm not a fan of Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate in that system. So let's see what he does in year two. And honestly, I would be more interested in him next year, 1 year into the system with the team kind of built. But agreed, Trevor Lawrence is another one. Javonte Williams, again, another excellent pick. I think there's a difference between the favorites, though, and the underdogs. Yeah,
I'd agree. And we'll move on to our last topic, which is basically in the same realm. And obviously, a few people brought it up in the comments. What second-year quarterback do you buy stock into the most? Obviously, I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of, one of those that it's to be expected. He's the number one overall pick. Like, that's kind of what he's there for. He didn't have a great year with Jacksonville because it's Jacksonville and it's Urban Meyer, but that may potentially change. But to you, Joe, looking at the three quarterbacks here listed, out of Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones, who would you put the most stock into as far as moving forward? Because obviously Justin Fields is with the Bears. They haven't done a lot offensively. I think Darnell Mooney's still going to be solid for him at wide receiver. You still have Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham at tight end. So there are a little bit of weapons that he can work with. Trey Lance, because it is San Francisco. They've teetered a lot on whether or not they're going to trade Jimmy. And I think if you were more definitive on Lance, Jimmy would probably already be out of the building. Yeah. And then Mac, I think, is still going to be solid. However, this is your New England Patriots team. You now have Matt Patricia as your offensive coordinator. So
allegedly, I would like the word allegedly to be used in all matters relating to Matt Patricia calling plays. Allegedly, sir.
So can Mac prove that he can basically run an offense by himself? But to you, who do you put the most stock into?
I think the easy answer is Mac Jones because of where he's at and what that team is. Because believe it or not, even though Tom Brady was there, it wasn't the whole time he was there that they were dependent on the quarterback position. They were a defensive team. They liked to run the ball. They liked basically 15 yards and in offense where it was a lot of outs, a lot of screens, a lot of slants, things of that sort. So I think Mac Jones can thrive in that system. In a vacuum, I love Justin Fields, and I have a terrible feeling that he's going to go by the wayside of really talented quarterbacks who never got their chance, because I'm just not sure. Now, again, new head coach, new GM. It's only his second year. Let's see. I'm not saying this is a Baker Mayfield situation where he's going to look good and then bad and then good and bad, but I love what he can do. Last year, Mac Jones got all 17 starts, 17 games, threw for 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, a little over 3,800 yards. It's a good season. It's a really good season for a rookie quarterback. They were a playoff team. They had some issues, but they were a playoff team. Justin Fields, with Matt Nagy, he played in 12 games, had 10 starts. He had 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He was sacked 26 times. He fumbled 12 times. So, again, rookie quarterback issues, but I think part of that was Nagy and his play calling. I'm just not sold on Trey Lance. I mean, maybe listen, on creative player in Madden, he makes sense. He can run, he can throw, he can do all these things. I got to see it on the field. And I'm sorry, the guy played in 6 games. He had 2 starts, 5 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. He ran the ball okay, 38 attempts for 168 yards and 1 touchdown. But I got to see it. Like, I'm not buying – if I'm only investing in one of them, it's not Trey Lance right now. So it's either Fields or Jones. So I'm probably going to go with the safe investment, not much of return, and go with Mac Jones. But if I had a little bit more money, I'd put a few shekels on Justin Fields because I think in the right situation, he can flourish in the modern NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'll go with Fields. And I say that mainly not because I dislike Alabama quarterbacks, but if you look at the last 2 seasons with New England, obviously Cam Newton the year before, Mac Jones this year, they're 17-16, and that's with the number 1 overall ranked defense. Like you said, they're a defensive first team, great defense, take the ball away, be able to score, put your team in good positions, and then run the ball effectively, which they were able to do. And like you said, it's not like Mac had a terrible season.
Yeah.
And we've never known New England to go out and get big crazy weapons for their quarterback. Even Tom. I mean, the last big crazy weapon they went and got realistically was Randy Moss.
Well, they did last year in free agency. I mean, they signed the tight ends and stuff, but before that, they never really had.
But I don't even know compared to what they home grew and Rob, it's like the tight ends were just kind of meh.
Yeah.
Because you had Smith, you had Henry. Smith wasn't bad, and Henry has a injury history as far as Henry has an injury history, especially when he was with the Chargers. So it's like, But again, Mac can he potentially move forward in offense without having Josh McDaniels there? And again, we saw New England have success without the quarterback, without Tom being there before. And we even saw them have success without McDaniels being there, but that's with Brady. So this will really be the true success as to how Mac does. Again, Lance, I'm not completely sold on. They wanted to get rid of Jimmy. They haven't. They're still kind of teetering on whether or not they want to. Lance is one of those, he's a lot of raw talent. If it's me, if I'm the coaches, see how the first half of the year plays. See where you're at, 8 games in. Are you just losing games barely, or are you just getting obliterated the entire time? Are you sitting there, 2-6, 3-5, 4-4, whatever? Then kind of, take your pick on what you want to do. If you're dead in the water, maybe Lance, but again, he's one of those, he has such a raw talent, kind of grooming. Let him sit for another year. Let him learn behind Jimmy. Even bring in maybe another veteran guy. I don't know who, but bring in. Actually, why not Cam? Big dude. He was able to kind of throw the ball. He's kind of able to run. And I know a lot of people have even tried to make that comparison that Cam should be the backup to Dak in Dallas because it kind of fits into that. I'm like, y'all are reaching. But still, bring in kind of another veteran guy that you feel comfortable enough for him to learn behind. And let him learn that way. Like you said, with Fields, Fields, I think, has the best potential out of all of them. I think behind Lawrence, Fields was the second best quarterback in that draft.
Agreed.
I'm not upset that Wilson went to the Jets because, like you said, if any quarterback career is going to go die, it's probably going to be the Jets. unfortunately, Mike, I love Da Bears, but the Bears has not exactly ever been quarterback friendly like ever, even with old Jay Cutler, and I liked watching.
Would like a word.
Yeah, I loved watching Jay for like years. You know, did they lose Jimmy Graham, Mike? I thought Jimmy was still there, but nonetheless,
yeah,
I think now that Ryan Pace is gone and Matt Nagy is gone, there's going to be a better fostered environment for Fields, and I think the Bears will eventually realize what they need to do to build around him in order to make him successful. And again, with Jones, I think he's in kind of the weird limbo of, is Bill going to stay there or is Bill not? What's the success going to be? Trey is probably in the best overall situation as far as talent, coaching, everything like that. But again, can they move forward with it? And yeah, Mike actually brought up a really good point. They replaced Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace with two new guys, both named Matt and Ryan. And ironically enough, both Ryan taking the GM and Matt Eberflus taking the head coaching job. That is actually, I didn't think of that at all. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess if we wanted to do it in a fun way, we would say the old game, nail, marry, kill. I'm probably going to nail Justin Fields. I'll probably marry Mac Jones. I'm going to kill Trey Lance. Like, that's the way I'm going to do it. Like, that's the way I feel about them in regards to their future.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, man, it's been a great show. I appreciate you coming on with me. Appreciate, of course, the topics. I thought they were great. I hope everybody else enjoyed them as well. And that's true. Virginia doesn't have enough time to learn new names at 99. That's true. She probably has trouble learning her own name. But again, Joe, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. You can always catch Joe every Wednesday night with me, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific here on Jawing and Balling. He also has his own podcast, Out of Bounds with a Z. You usually post those episodes on Friday morning?
Yeah, depending. It's been spotty, but yeah, it's usually Friday. So
okay, Friday. You can also catch me here on Jawing and Balling on Wednesdays. You can also catch me Monday through Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, and 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm actually going to be on tonight. We're going to potentially discuss what we think so far about Game 3 of the finals and a whole bunch of other topics. But again, thank you all. Please like, share, and subscribe. We have a ton of great shows here on the network. If you like NBA, we have a ton of NBA shows. NFL, we even have WNBA shows. We have an all-female show in the Sports Senseis, run by my co-host on ASAP After Dark, Elena. She's awesome, very knowledgeable, very smart in everything that she does. So believe me, you're going to like what you see if you like, share, subscribe, follow, hit that little notification so that we always know whenever we're coming on. And I hope everybody has a great night. It's a great Wednesday. It's the summertime. Go out, have some fun, be responsible. As I used to always hear in the military, don't add from the population unless you intend to. Don't subtract from the population at all. Don't drink and drive. If you go to jail, establish dominance early. And just remember, if you do this on a federal holiday, the judge is not coming in until the next work day, so you may or may not be there for a hot minute. But other than that, everybody have a great night, and we will see y'all next week. As soon as I can find our intro video, because it's hitting everything.